Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thanks for your patience as we're waiting for more people to come in. It looks like we have people trickling in now, Sarah. So let's get started. I am Shannon, the EA and project manager here at TeamSense. And joining me today is Sarah Ervin, who is our wonderful customer success manager. She's here to talk to us a little bit today about what it's like to onboard with TeamSense. And we're going to talk a little bit about scaling and extending to multiple sites. So Sarah, thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to get started and to talk a little bit about this process.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so Sarah, just kind of getting us started, I would love to know if you could give us just a brief overview of what the onboarding process looks like with TeamSense. What's typical? What should a company expect after they have agreed to come on and be a TeamSense customer in their onboarding?
Yeah, that's a great question. My bread and butter. So the good news about TeamSense implementation is it's really just a few straightforward phases. So the first thing we do is get your system set up with employee information. We call that populating your dashboard or uploading employee information. That is a simple spreadsheet or potentially an HRIS integration if we can help you connect those systems so you never have to do a manual upload. Once your data is in the system, we're going to get you as an administrator really comfortable with the space, get you trained up, get you feeling good, making sure you understand all the tools you have in there. And then the third phase is just announcing to employees and managers. The good news about TeamSense implementation, unlike other system changes you might have taken on, is there is no app to download for employees. They're not even going to have to remember a login. So when we say like announcing to employees or socializing TeamSense, we're really saying announcing a new phone number, giving them a new number to text or call into when they're reporting an absence. So that phase, that employee socialization, that piece that can often feel really sticky in change management is going to be one of the really smooth and quick parts of this process. Those are the kind of basic phases we'll move through together. Now, the fun part of implementation is actually just getting to know your company's specific goals, strategies, and the vision that you have for TeamSense. That's what I love about doing implementations. And that's the more kind of tactile and I think impactful stuff that we can get into once we get to hear your manager goals, actually talk to some employees, and then we can really customize those steps to make sure that it's meeting every single phase or strategy that you may have for your company this year.
Nice. And Sarah, how long does implementation usually take for most companies?
You know, it's pretty adaptable to your needs there, but we can run implementations that are as quick as a week. I would say average we see might be about a month. And then sometimes, especially at a larger space, you might be taking it a little more slowly. You might want to pace things out really intentionally. And we can also see folks taking 2 or 3 months. But from our side, for system setup, logging you into your dashboard and announcing to employees, from a technical perspective of ease here, that's a few days. Nice. The planning that week or that month is all about making it feel smooth, easy, and well prepared for you.
Excellent. Got it. And will they work directly with customer success during that process?
Oh yeah, that's the fun part. Yeah, so typically what we do is we'll set up weekly recurring implementation syncs. That's an opportunity for us just to come together, see where we're at, align on next steps, answer questions as we go. And usually we'll scale those back. So pretty quickly, our TeamSense administrators are going to be feeling like experts in the system. They're going to be ready to scale back to 2 weeks, then maybe a month. I will say, though, there are some folks that we really align with. We can become strategic partners on systems beyond TeamSense. And there are folks who implemented with us a year ago that I'm still meeting with weekly or every other week because we've developed a really close partnership. And now we're working on communication strategies. We're working on kind of embedding TeamSense custom workflows into spaces outside of attendance management. So we also look forward to continuing that relationship into the next phase beyond implementation.
Nice. Love that. So let's talk a little bit more too about onboarding and implementation. Do you feel like it's best for an organization to start small, like one site, or is it better to roll out org-wide change all at once so that the change management might be a little less daunting?
That's a great question. So ultimately, that's a decision that we will make together through understanding the unique space, needs, and infrastructure of a company. However, as you referenced, Shannon, our ultimate best practice recommendation is going to be bringing in more sites at one time. And there's a few reasons for that. One is there's a really unique feeling of mutual support and collaboration across sites that you get when we have multiple leaders in the space working together strategically and preparing for a system change that can really feel like a shared company initiative rather than a one-off. And I'm naming the kind of relational aspects of that are really important. But if you think about the efficiency of pooling resources, ideas, and setting a really aligned strategy, that's better workflow.
Right.
So we see that resulting in a more kind of centralized and more collectively driven overall strategy for the company. The second thing I'll mention about that is the depth, accuracy, and usefulness of the data involved. So not only are we going to be collecting and tracking your TeamSense absences and letting managers know who's out and all that day-to-day operational goodness, we also do a lot of automatic data analysis. So if you can envision having that data in the system across multiple sites, across multiple regions, you get to the point where you have a really broad and really impactful set of data. You can make decisions that actually inform operations and HR. You can compare across locations for things like absenteeism rate, perfect attendance, hotspots where you might be seeing greater rates of absenteeism based on the month, the day, and planning ahead better for the following year for things like staffing, leadership strategies, all that good stuff that gets you to the next level of absenteeism planning.
Nice, nice. So yeah, I was actually going to ask about kind of data-driven decision-making and how TeamSense really does make an impact for that. So do you have any stories that you could share from working with a customer who has perhaps done more than one site and where data has been a major game changer for them when it comes to strategy?
Sure. So I can give you a couple different examples of how folks have done kind of a multi-site rollout in different ways and how they've used TeamSense custom flows for that.
Yeah,
So I can think
generic examples would be awesome. And also, before we do that, Sarah, I forgot to mention at the beginning, we will take questions during this. So please feel free, if you have a question, to drop them in the Q&A session. I am not watching right now for questions because hosting with Sarah, but Justin, our CMO, is watching and we'll have a Q&A session when we're going through the main questions. So please feel free to drop those in the question and answer section.
Great, thanks, Shannon.
Let's give us some examples.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can think of one of our manufacturing partners, which is one of our kind of most common industry use cases. They started at one location of about 100 users. So we were working with one city in Ohio. Over the course of about a year, we got to know their regional HR leadership as we were working on strategic projects together. And over the course of that year, they incrementally rolled out to about 10 more sites. In this case, those locations operate really independently. So it made sense to get to know them, move out on kind of a month-to-month basis. However, at this site, because they were still using the same system, even though these locations are really independent in overall business practices and even the products they're producing, they were able to utilize the custom workflows and TeamSense attendance processes that they had set up in a shared dashboard. For example, we set up a PTO form for them so that in addition to using TeamSense for day-to-day call-offs, they could also receive future requests for time off. That is a system that we set up for that first site where they were like, man, we love the automated communication. We love collecting data in one place. Let's get into using this for information beyond immediate call-offs. Once we set up that form for them there, when we get to the next site, it's really easy to say, hey, guess what? We already have a custom workflow set up for you in this space that your colleagues have determined is a good business practice. So that was fun to see.
Yeah.
As someone who likes to see those little wins at each additional site, it's really fun to get to come in and say like, ta-da, check this out. So that was quite satisfying. And I'll give you one more example of the other side of how implementations can go.
Yeah.
We are also working with a large auto manufacturing partner who is actually implementing to 13 or 14 sites at one time across the United States. So we've had that kind of really rich implementation planning process where we can include all the voices right from the beginning. We can develop resources that apply to all of them, but are customizable by site. So this is a location that hasn't necessarily built that data yet, but when we have them all in there, we can plan for that. We have a wonderful tool in our system called Attendance Insights. We can watch that data come in and then think strategically about what we want to track. So I can learn from them from the beginning. What are you driving towards? What is your absenteeism rate goal? Do you have engagement metrics that we can support with our communication system?
Right.
So from the beginning, we can track that and compare. And then we're going to do things like build out communication templates that allow them to quickly action that. We're going to learn who needs to see that data visualization and then put that into action for absenteeism planning. So that's an example of why it's going to be impactful to have that many sites in at one time, because now we have the ability to actually influence 2024 decision making right from the start. Yeah.
Right. Nice, nice. What are so we talked about attendance management and the PTO sheets that you've done. Do you have some examples of other common use cases that TeamSense is used for that have a bigger impact when they're rolled out org-wide?
Yeah, you totally read my mind because I was hoping you would ask me that next. I have a couple specific things that I want to talk about. So we've been really focused on attendance management and kind of data tracking so far. One of my favorite things about TeamSense implementation is once we have your employee contact information in the system, you also have an instantaneous outgoing communication system ready to go. So if you think about what this means at scale, especially when you have multiple sites loaded into the system,
Right.
you now have a way to instantly communicate via text or email to employees across the country.
Nice.
When you have any sort of aligned change management process occurring, whether that's TeamSense or not, this is going to be a great method. So think about, for example, rolling out a new attendance policy.
Right.
Think about all the different places that you have to announce that, all the different ways you have to put that in front of employees, to be able to easily and quickly say to everyone, here's your new policy, here's where the documentation lives, let us know if you have questions, is very powerful.
Right.
That's a kind of systems use case example, but I'd also like you to think about emergency situations. We know that people are looking at their cell phones at least every 3 minutes these days. This is going to be the quickest, fastest, and most secure way to get employees emergency notification for things like weather, closures, anything else that in the past may have enacted a phone tree or an email system where you don't even know if people are seeing it. You can now really quickly make sure that employees have the safety information you need them to have, and even respond to you via a custom form or workflow to confirm that they are safe in place, that they have what you need, and let you know if they need any additional resources. So that's one that clearly I'm passionate about because I love the communication resources. I want to give one other really specific example around data. Whether or not a company chooses to set up a full human resource information system integration at the beginning, we can set up a lightweight attendance points integration.
Oh.
So what this would mean is whether it's one site or across, the example of 13 or 14 sites, employees can immediately access their own points balance in the TeamSense system.
And then with or without their HRIS integration.
Precisely. Yep. As long as we can connect to one source of truth. We've done this with spreadsheets. We've done this with fully built out systems, really whatever method we need to make that work for someone. I mention this as a use case because I think it's a great example of how getting quick data visibility and transparency into the system can be impactful for employees, managers, and also HR leads.
Right.
It reinforces company culture of transparency and trust. Also, when you think about the efficiency difference it makes for an HR team, when employees can self-service that information rather than coming to managers or straight to HR on a daily basis to gather that. The mental load and the time drain are the things we want to take off the backs of HR teams from the beginning of implementation. So a lot of that is going to happen through the attendance management and instantaneous tracking, but a lot of that is going to happen through efficient data management later on down the process as well.
Got it. So if they decide to go in that direction, does that lengthen their implementation period? Is it more complicated to do that? Or is that something that is a pretty easy rollout for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. It does not lengthen the implementation, in part because it's going to be easy, but also because it doesn't have to align with implementation.
Nice.
So in regards to that first part, points connection is truly as simple as showing us your source of truth, whether that is a spreadsheet points calculator, whether that is a URL link within your API. As long as we have access to it, our team can connect, and then it regularly syncs. So once you give us that source of truth, there's actually no further labor involved. Employees can then text in and access their points, and you can see it as an administrator within the dashboard. In terms of doing it during implementation, the nice thing about doing it early on is that then when you're announcing TeamSense, you can share as a boost, like, and guess what? Text in the word points, you're going to get your points balance back. That encourages usage of the system. It's an extra win. It shows employees that you are focused on them having the information they need to do their jobs and communicate well.
Right.
However, if you're like, we're adjusting our points policy, we want to do this 3 months down the line, guess what? You have a communication system built in. So it's very easy to roll out new things. All you have to do is send a message out that says, hey, points balances are now uploaded. Reply with the word points to see your current total.
Excellent. So this is something that they can roll out in implementation or later down the road if it's something that they want to do the change management slow. That's awesome. Can we talk a little bit about some of the challenges that companies might face when they're doing an implementation with TeamSense, whether it be, one site and a small rollout, or if they're doing it company-wide? What are some of the challenges that you have worked through with our customers?
Yeah. I think I'll just absolutely blow your mind with this one. Not all companies are lockstep across dispersed sites, right? In terms of co-planning communication data. I think we've all experienced that. So certainly moving a large ship in even a very simple and straightforward direction can sometimes take some consistency, relearning, co-planning together. The nice thing about TeamSense implementation is that it's not a software handoff. It's going to be a collaborative process. So when you think about what that means in terms of having a strategic leader and partner bringing together folks across multiple locations, it creates a space where we get the right voices in the room, and it makes TeamSense implementation an opportunity to form collective change management strategy and process if that's something that doesn't already exist. Sometimes we show up and they're like, we've done this 5 times. We know exactly how we roll out new things. If that's not the case, certainly that's a moment where it's going to take a little bit more strategy, a little more communication, an opportunity to really build out the documentation and process that company wants to use moving forward after TeamSense. The second thing I'll just briefly mention is timing. When you're working on a national scale across different sites, sometimes there's a top-down decision that's like, January 1st, let's go everybody. Sometimes we're in communication at a site level still, and we'll hear, man, January 15th would be great because we're doing a local town hall on the 10th.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we may slow down for a beat and say, you know what, we're doing a group implementation plan, but we're doing a staggered launch across the month.
Right.
So all that to say, even in a shared implementation space, I may end up communicating one-on-one with each site to really make sure that the plan is respecting and honoring their internal communication flow.
Nice. Are there already some existing strategies though that companies can implement to ensure successful adoption of TeamSense? I mean, just some things that they can think of before even meeting with you and doing a one-on-one strategy session.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Let me just, I'm going to list off some great ideas that we've seen work well across the board. So first off, get managers and supervisors excited and on board with you. This just means doing some specific prep and communication with those folks ahead of announcing to employees so that anyone involved in a leadership role is prepared, informed, and really has your back. You don't want to announce something to employees and they ask their manager, like, have you heard about this TeamSense thing? Like, what is that? And they're like, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I heard about it today too. You want them to say, yeah, TeamSense is going to be a really an easy, fast, and better way for you to track your absences. You're just going to text a number. Now your absences are going to be accurately tracked and I'll have that information. So you want them to be able to give a secure, quick answer. My second tip is multiple learning styles. So you want to think about visual announcement. So just a poster, a flyer with a logo with the TeamSense number, verbal announcement, making sure that, for example, team managers in stand-up spaces are using any opportunity to verbally reinforce TeamSense, and then written announcement. Maybe this is sometimes the less popular one, but if you are sending a weekly newsletter or other things in writing, we'll even help you build some copy for that to give a punchy announcement where employees can really slow down, take in the information on their own time. I know we are I'm sure you have more questions, but this is one I get excited about. So I'm going to take the opportunity to just name a couple more.
Yeah.
Consistency and optimism. When we are developing a rollout plan, one of the biggest things I'll recommend is let's do this at a time where the leader involved has the focus to do those reinforcements, has a little bit of bandwidth to do those reinforcements with our support, of course, so that employees are consistently hearing the timeline. They know exactly when it's coming, and they are getting some energy and optimism from their leadership team around it. And then finally, our last step is going to be removing other options for call off. So for example, if we have an old, ineffective IVR system hanging around, we got to tell employees the date at which that's going away. So here's an example of that. January 1st, TeamSense is starting. Here's your new number for call off. January 8th, old call off line is going down. You have 1 week to acclimate, and then that's going to be your only option. Then if we want to get a little more serious, January 15th, if you didn't use TeamSense, you are getting a no call, no show this week. So slowly reinforcing it. And ultimately, clarity and consistency is kindness.
Yeah.
When we give employees one path that is clear, they're going to adapt to it. And when you think about a time that, like when Google, for example, changes their user interface, there's a day where you're like, this is not what I'm used to. They're changing it on me. Within a week, though, when that's what you're using, you barely remember the old system. It's just the new thing. So that consistency and the clarity of option is going to be huge.
Got it. And our customer success team, we support all these steps. We have resources for companies to use to get their managers and leaders excited and to do the written announcements and posters and those types of things. Can you give me some examples of things that we've provided to help this process?
Yeah, we have easily customizable posters and visual announcements we do. I also will get on a Zoom just like this and do manager trainings. So
nice.
An example of a conversation we might have in an implementation call is learning, how do you think your managers are going to best respond to a new system? Is it coming from a face and name they already know? Or would it build trust for them to see, hey, TeamSense also has faces and names of real humans who are here to support you. Here's the new process. So manager training is another. And then, the fun stuff where we get to get scrappy with you. So for example, today I am putting in the mail to that large automotive customer I mentioned who's rolling out to multiple sites. I am putting in the mail customized business cards for them so that each employee can see, here's the new TeamSense number. I'm going to have it in my wallet. I'm ready to go. I know that my HR team cared enough to slow down and give me that information on paper. So the additional little pieces, you'll also find that if you say, man, our team would really benefit if TeamSense customer success could work with us on XYZ, on this additional form of communication, that's what we want to know, and it's what we want to get into. So I love doing the little customized pieces as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got one more question for you, and then we'll take some questions from the audience. If TeamSense has been adopted successfully at one site, how can the leaders at that site help leaders at other sites if they want to launch TeamSense? What are things that they can share or lessons learned that might really inspire change for other divisions or other departments as well?
Yeah, thank you for that one. From a day-to-day usage perspective, it is so helpful for new oncoming sites to hear suggestions and best practices from colleagues who have already been there. So that can include exactly the kind of thing I was just talking about, learning about the extra pieces that fit within a company culture to really make this rich. So for example, after I give my kind of suggestions for best practices we see overall, an experienced site lead could say to a new person, hey, you know that team meeting we do every week with managers on Friday afternoon? Bump that to the morning to announce TeamSense so that you can answer follow-up questions before they come in again on Monday. Those are the kind of things that you're going to get when people really know the day-to-day experience within a company and sharing the things they would have done in hindsight. So that's my first one. The second one is the data. If a company, one site has already been here for a bit, they're going to be able to pull up those data analytics I referenced and really show a new site what they're getting out of it. And Shannon, if your question is also around creating interest and drive towards bringing more sites on, that's going to be a great way to bring visibility to the impact of the system. So being able to show another leader, or even regional and corporate leadership. Like, hey, here is the data that is coming into the system. Check out this chart. Now I have the information that I need to plan for staffing for January because I know what our patterns are. And now that data is actionable. That's going to be huge for leaders to see, especially at large companies where data tracking is so challenging.
Right. Well, just like the question from before, when we were talking about rolling out TeamSense and getting employees engaged with it, I'm assuming that our success team will also partner with team leads if they are wanting to move to different divisions and help them by helping provide some of that data and information. Do they just reach out to customer success, to their account manager to help if they want to expand?
Absolutely. Yeah, your contacts that you already have are going to be your partners in this. So your account manager, your customer success person. If you haven't talked to someone for a little bit, just email into support@teamsense.com and we will get right with you on it. Yeah, as a leader, if you are at one site that's using it and you know, like, oh my gosh, it would be so much easier if my colleagues were in this system with me, that's what we want. We want to help create that collective change. We want to ease the impact and inefficiency that can occur when there are multiple systems at multiple sites. And really, we want to make our HR managers and contacts the heroes of this story. We want to help you get those wins. I like to know what end of year personal goals are, because sometimes it is around data efficiency process and engagement and communication metrics. We have the data to show to your leadership, this is what TeamSense has done. So we can simultaneously get you that end of year bonus and help make your life more efficient by bringing more folks into the ship with us.
I love that. We want to make the customer the hero. I love it. All right. Speaking of, let's have some questions from our heroes that are joining us. Justin, do we have any questions that have come in for the Q&A session for Sarah?
Yes, pardon me. We do have a couple. Sarah was very thorough. You were both very thorough. So I think you answered some of the questions before they were asked. But here's one. Sarah, I think this came from when you were mentioning the old IVR system, quote unquote. And the question was, what are some advantages of TeamSense over an old IVR system that I can share with my team to help people get excited about moving to TeamSense? I think looking for specific reasons to leave the IVR and take on TeamSense for call off.
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, when we say IVR, we're talking about the kind of voice prompt system where you call in and an automated voice gives you questions for touch tone or voice response back. If you're already a TeamSense customer, you know that we do have an IVR option in TeamSense that mirrors our absence survey and texting. What we're referencing here are older systems that drive only to IVR. What we hear often is that these systems are clunkier to access when you can only call. They're often not customized to that location, to the needs of one company. So the questions asked don't always allow employees to give the information they need to give. And a lot of these systems do not include automatic notification to managers or the automatic data tracking. So even though there is a system collecting the message, that data is still sitting in a bottleneck. There are still HR leaders and managers checking voicemails or manually checking a database, communicating to managers, and putting that data somewhere. Because of that, employees will sometimes have the experience of their manager or leadership not quickly having that information, even though they did call off. So you can imagine the frustration of being an employee and getting a no call, no show note, or getting a call or text from your manager saying, where are you? Where you're like, well, I did call in and I couldn't quite give the information I wanted to give. The system was a little glitchy and now my manager doesn't even know. So those things combined don't drive towards trust and adoption. When you come over to TeamSense, first of all, we prioritize the texting platform. People today are texting. This is not a new technology to your employees. The adoption lift is really, really low because of that. It's faster. It allows you to have the accessibility of typing, just clicking a button to answer a question on your own phone, rather than having to repeatedly listen to a question and try to speak it back. It's going to be faster, easier, and more consistent across the board. And employees are spending like 30 seconds in this survey. It's going to be the technology and ease they're used to of the other forms of communication they use in their life.
That's fantastic. And you were speaking about the employee experience, but I imagine for the manager having the call off information, they need to make real-time decisions about who's going to be in. What do you hear from managers and supervisors about their ability to respond versus an IVR system if there's that lag or delay there?
Yeah. So imagine being a manager coming in for a 7 a.m. line start. If you are waiting even an hour to learn who is going to be there and who is not going to be there that day, you cannot efficiently plan a production line in that time. When you lose even 1 or 2 people that are trained to one specific part of an efficient process and you don't know that, you see production lag times, you see downage. That does not look or feel good as a manager with really specific numbers to keep up in that area. Regardless of whether you're running a production line, if that data is available to you quickly, you can respond to that. That might be then a quick message out saying, hey, we have a coverage gap on our morning shift. Who can come in? You're able to respond to that. You're able to plan. And again, as a manager, that trust and visibility is so important for team culture. When employees know that you as a manager have their important attendance information held secure and that you are tracking that, they are going to trust leadership more and more over time.
That's fantastic. We have one more. And this gets back to, I think, some of the data points you were making. How does data-driven decision-making play a role in maximizing the impact of TeamSense once we have it?
Yeah, so that goes back first off to the staffing planning we were just talking about. This doesn't just mean day-to-day line planning. This means forward-looking planning. In order to do a staffing plan, you need some data to know on a weekly basis, how many employees do we actually have calling off? Do we see seasonal spikes of illness, weather problems? Think about summertime. What happens in late June? The kids are going off. The kids are off for the summer, right? What happens to staffing at that point? Sometimes that is a moment where we will see a spike in absenteeism as people figure out childcare. Just as a small anecdote, one company noticed a spike the day after their local football team had a big game because people were having a lot of fun on Sundays, right? That gives them the opportunity to probably do some proactive communication with their teams and also potentially plan for that staffing. I'll give you one more example. We had a company that was noticing a pattern of drop-offs in a logistic trucking line, a particular shift. People were not coming in. On the day of, they were using TeamSense to call off, like, I'm sick, whatever reason, I'm not coming in. Knowing that, they were like, dang, why are people always sick on a Wednesday when they would have to do this particular line shift, or logistical trucking line shift? And what they learned is it was a really obnoxious shift for employees. The route was complex, the timing was too tight, they couldn't take a break, the mapping was confusing. So because of that, they were able to actually improve employee experience. That's an opportunity to then send out even a TeamSense survey to get back a little bit more information about employee experience and actually make a change to their experience on that shift. Tighten it up, improve communication, build in a break, and actually work toward improving attendance on that day.
Excellent. All right. I think that's all the questions we have now. However, if you do think of follow-up questions, you are welcome to reach out to us at any time. I will make sure the message gets to Sarah so that she can provide you with one of these expert answers. You can reach us at webinars@teamsense.com. We are happy to forward that information to the correct department and get you answers to any questions you may have. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing with us today, for talking about implementation and onboarding with TeamSense, and for talking about one site or many sites. It sounds like we have options for both, and if they are interested, I hope that they will reach out and we can connect them with you.
Please do. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. Join us again next Tuesday, exact same time, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. Justin, our CMO, will be talking about attendance points visualization. So he's going to talk about that attendance points option that Sarah mentioned earlier in the webinar. All right, thank you. I hope you guys have a great day.
You too, Shannon. Thank you.